U.S. Representative Joaquin Castro demands answers surrounding the theft of plutonium from a San Antonio hotel parking lot. A new fruit, first available only in Texas, hits the market with a bang.
When you bite into this thing, super juicy, distinct plum flavor, but once it hits the back of your tongue, all sticky sweet cherry.
And the Spurs' Kawhi Leonard trade makes Danny Green collateral damage.
When Kawhi wasn't there, Danny was the best perimeter guy that they had on this team, and he made it known how good he was.
I'm Chance Storling with your Express Briefing for Friday, July 20th. Subscribe to this and other free content at expressnews.com/podcasts. And get each day's top news and sports headlines delivered to your inbox at expressnews.com/newsletters. The delayed disclosure that scientific instruments containing small amounts of radioactive plutonium and cesium were stolen more than a year ago in a San Antonio hotel parking lot has brought criticism from nuclear researchers and a congressional demand for more accountability from the agencies involved, with U.S. Representative Joaquin Castro writing Energy Secretary Rick Perry, asking why the Energy Department didn't let the public know about the March 2017 theft from a vehicle Idaho National Laboratory contractors were driving to visit San Antonio's Southwest Research Institute. The San Antonio Democrats' letter asks Perry for details on the amount of plutonium and cesium in the stolen equipment, and a list of all such losses of radioactive materials controlled or owned by the Department of Energy in Texas that haven't been reported to Congress. In a Wednesday interview, Castro noted he's stunned the theft went unannounced until an article on the matter was published by Washington-based nonprofit news organization the Center for Public Integrity. According to Idaho National Laboratory and Energy Department reports, the FBI and the San Antonio Police Department, 2 half-dollar-sized discs of plutonium-239 and cesium-137 were in Geiger counter devices called check sources that, while being transported in hard-shell cases, were left by 2 Idaho security specialists inside their rented Ford Expedition overnight at a Marriott on Loop 410. A third case, also in the vehicle, was left untouched. The very cherry plum hybrid fruit, which made its debut at a Dallas Central Market in 2011, is now available across the country and is quickly making fans in Alamo City. Here's San Antonio Express News food writer Paul Stephen.
This is a big season for a relative newcomer in the hybrid fruit world. It is the very cherry plum. That's very spelled with 2 R's. It's a brand name. Out of California, the Flavor Fruit Tree Company, they tend to about 400 acres of trees, and they've painstakingly bred this over the past few years. It's a mix of plum trees that have been pollinated with cherry pollen. Over the years, they've managed to narrow this down to a fruit that comes out a little bit smaller than a golf ball, looks very much like a plum, but when you bite into this thing, super juicy, distinct plum flavor, but once it hits the back of your tongue, all sticky sweet cherry. I'm really enjoying the heck out of this.
Heaven, those were so good.
They're really just now enjoying a nationwide rollout. They had sort of a limited crop last year. This year, it's a pretty decent crop out of that 400 acres. If you're looking to shake up that fruit bowl this summer, definitely keep an eye out for these guys.
Hear more about the delicious very cherry plum on the latest episode of the Taste Cast, our San Antonio food and restaurant podcast, available for free download at expressnews.com/podcasts. And Danny Green says his first inkling of his trade to the Toronto Raptors came Wednesday morning when the Spurs player, who's played longer than anyone on the active roster aside from Manu Ginobili, rolled over at his home in New York to check his phone, seeing a string of missed calls, including one from Spurs coach Greg Popovich. Unlike Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green didn't ask to leave the Spurs, and the news hit him like a cold shower. Here's San Antonio Express News Spurs beat reporter Jabari Young and sports columnist Mike Finger.
Mike, he is undervalued and underrated part of not only this community, but this team. You know, I look at Twitter a lot. You know, I have to put the phone down sometimes, especially when I see people that go off on Danny Green. Let me tell you something. Knock it off, okay? That man has delivered nothing but solid play for the Spurs as long as he's been here. He's been Greg Popovich's whipping boy. I mean, if anything happened, and the thing I loved about him the most, he always took responsibility, even when he messed up. He was always accountable. He held himself accountable. He was one of those guys when we needed to see the tone of this team, we can go to Danny. He'd be right there front and center to answer all questions. And now he's on the outside, being in that deal that sent in Toronto, the Kawhi Leonard, as well as DeMar DeRozan coming here, and Danny Green going to Toronto with Kawhi. Your impression on this team losing Danny Green and what that's going to mean for them?
I think you're right in terms of from a sports writer standpoint. This sports writing contingent is kind of in mourning because he was a guy Danny Green that was accessible and as available as anybody in the locker room. And maybe that doesn't translate to popularity with the Spurs fans, but you're right. I think he was underrated in a way in that a 3-and-D type player is important in today's NBA and hugely responsible for helping them to win one championship, and just a great locker room guy, a great guy that Greg Popovich, as much as he kind of railed on him at times, could depend on him to give the Spurs what he gave them, and night in and night out. And I think the Spurs are going to miss that to a degree. One thing that should be said is DeMar DeRozan is a guy who won the Magic Johnson Award for the best guy dealing with the media. So we're going to get another guy like that coming in. But yeah, I think the Danny Green legacy in San Antonio is going to be something that's more and more appreciated after he's gone.
And that's your daily San Antonio Express News briefing for Friday, July 20th. Subscribe to this and other free content at expressnews.com/podcasts. I'm Chance Dorland.